So, my mother-in-law, my husband's mom, passed away 2 weeks ago. She lived hours away in her hometown, and we had to drive 6 hours to get there and attend the funeral. At first, I didn't want to go. The reason was because of my brother-in-law, Michael. He's my husband's half-brother. Mother-in-law isn't his mom. Michael and I had some issues in the past that I'll not elaborate on. So I went low contact with him, then full no contact. I asked my husband if Michael would be there, and he said it was a no-brainer since he and mother-in-law had a close relationship. I didn't want to go, and my husband argued about it for hours, then came home later and said that Michael wouldn't be there due to travel issues. He lives in another state. I decided to go with my husband, but later on, I was shocked to see Michael walk up to us with his wife and daughter. I froze and looked at my husband because he lied about him not coming. I didn't confront him because they embraced each other and started crying. His wife was watching as I turned around and walked away. I went to a hotel and stayed there. My husband called right after the funeral and called me ridiculous and unbearable for pulling a stunt like this and for walking out of the funeral and leaving him alone. I said he lied to me about Michael's presence at the funeral, and he wasn't alone. Apparently, he had his family with him. He got loud saying that I was insane to expect his half-brother to miss his stepmother's funeral and told me to get a clue. I felt so upset that I started crying when he said I was useless. I packed and went home, but he further argued that I showed no empathy or support by walking out of the funeral and going home. We argued when he came home, and I explained again how he had lied to me, but he kept saying that it was illogical to expect Michael not to show up. He told me that I was stuck up and needed to get over myself, but it doesn't matter what Michael did and what issues we had. I put a boundary in place and saw that it was disrespected. Many family members called me harsh for the no contact, but that's a boundary I put, and it should be respected no matter the reason behind it. When Michael first saw me, he looked at his wife, and she looked at me like she was watching my reaction. There were kids around, and I tried to stay as calm as possible. So am I the idiot for leaving after I felt uncomfortable by Michael's presence? No, it doesn't matter because I had a boundary. Who cares if your mommy died? My boundary. You are the idiot, OP. Read that again. Your husband's mother died. And before you try to justify that they weren't close, there was tension, whatever. It doesn't matter. Because when a parent dies, most people remember the love, not the hate. The funeral was not about you. It was about your husband. So you had a disagreement with Michael and are in no contact with him. Your mother-in-law dies, and you think it's more important to throw a fit and refuse to attend a funeral than it is to support your husband? You're not obligated to talk to Michael. You can be in the same area and completely ignore him. Yes, he did a bad thing. He did lie. It looks like he thought at the moment that he had no other choice if he wanted your support. Let me get this straight. You think that not being in the same place as Michael is more important than supporting and loving your husband on a very hard and sad day. And you think that the lie was worse than just choosing not to attend your mother-in-law's funeral if you don't get your way? Don't you see who's wrong? Do you really need someone else's opinion? We can't make any judgment without getting a little bit of context into what Michael did to make you eventually go no contact with him. Because if it's some petty crap you're not getting over, then I suppose you would be the idiot. But if it's something more serious and really warranted your response at the funeral, then I guess not. Update. Am I the idiot for leaving after my husband lied to me? I'm going to go ahead and elaborate on these issues. The issues we had involved inheritance, father-in-law's inheritance. Michael and his wife wanted to keep the family home to themselves since they have kids and only let my husband have a small piece of land worth a lot less. My husband didn't care, but I got involved and threatened Michael with the court on my husband's behalf since it seemed like they were robbing him and he did nothing to stop it. Michael called me a witch numerous times and said that my 3 pregnancy losses were karma after he claimed I was driving a wedge between him and his brother. I'm still going with you are the idiot. That is definitely valid to go no contact. Brother-in-law also sucks. But in my opinion, that should be put aside for a circumstance like a funeral for your husband. Some might disagree. Remember that no one was asking you to forgive brother-in-law or be friendly with him. You were asked to simply exist in his presence at this once-in-a-lifetime, non-recurring, tough day for your husband. I still firmly believe you should have done that with grace because it's not about you. So, husband didn't want to push for more. His brother got a home, but she wanted more money that she has no claim over. Husband was okay with the inheritance, but OP decided to sue, lending to a war of words between her and her brother-in-law. Honestly, it makes OP sound worse. You butted into their inheritance. The brother said some horrendous stuff, but you also really stepped out of line. I'm speechless. Even if you didn't think it was being fair to your husband, it's not your inheritance to haggle over. You certainly don't have a right to dictate who attends a funeral, especially when that person was his freaking stepmother. I'm honestly boggled. If anyone had a right to ban you from the funeral, it would have been Michael or your husband, not the other way around. Your mother-in-law's death wasn't about you. Likewise, your husband's inheritance wasn't about you, but you insist on making both things about you. My brother works as a car rental agent, and his salary is not livable at all. His wife is a stay-at-home mom for their preschooler, so he's the sole provider, and he's been receiving a fixed sum from both my mom and another sister to keep things afloat. I also helped out a few times when I could. Some time ago, my sister-in-law told me she wanted another child because she didn't want their son to be an only child, and asked me what I thought. I advised her against it and told her to either wait till my brother gets promoted or until she gets a job. I told her it would be realistically impossible to provide for another child when you're barely coasting by, and that she was still young, 27 years old. I also told my brother the same thing. About 3 weeks ago, my brother called me all happy and told me his wife was pregnant. I told him, "Great, I wish you good luck," and soon hung up. I never called my sister-in-law to congratulate her, nor went over to their place for the baby shower. I told them I was busy. Yesterday we had dinner at our parents' house, and I inevitably met my sister-in-law. She told me, "You know I'm pregnant," with an excited tone. I told her, "Yeah, I know. That's great. I wish you good luck." She then said, "So, that's it?" I asked her what she meant, and she said, "Aren't you happy for us?" I told her my feelings were irrelevant here, and their decision was up to them. She told me they matter, and begged me to please tell her honestly what I think. So I told her I frankly think you're making a mistake, and this innocent child will suffer the consequences of your selfishness. You're not ready to care for another little life when you can't pay your bills. How long do you think my mom and sister will support you? She interrupted me and said, "What the heck? That's none of your business. I only asked you out of politeness, but you really didn't hold back at all." I told her, "You're the one who told me to be honest." She said, "I told you to be honest with me, not a douche." She then called me an idiot and complained to my brother. I didn't want to tangle with them, so I grabbed my purse and left. Sometime later, my mom called me, fuming, and told me I had no right to comment. She said I should have congratulated them properly and left it at that. That even if she was the one who asked for my opinion, I should have known better than to hurt her with those words. I think my words might have been pretty hurtful, and I went too far. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I never understand people who don't have enough money, even for one person, and then they marry and make 2+ kids, and they have no money. Some people lose their rational thinking capability when the topic comes to kids. If you cannot live with one wage with 3 people and get support from the family, you can't live with 4 people. OP, don't give them money anymore, even if you can afford to do so. Some people must understand that just because they can do something doesn't mean they should do it. Just because you can have a kid doesn't mean it's a good idea at the time. It seems like they're borrowing from your mother and sister and you just to stay afloat as open knowledge in your family. So it's not like you did any digging to determine how financially screwed they are. Not an invasion of privacy. Their kids are screwed. I hate when people ask for something and get all upset when it's given to them. If you don't want to know, then for goodness sake, don't ask. And certainly don't beg for it. She should have already had some inkling of your position based on the conversation you had with her when she expressed a desire to get pregnant. Of course, she isn't obligated to follow your advice, But if anything you said is true, then that's some very sound advice. Just keep your distance, OP. Don't get dragged into the circus. My daughter and I had an argument over her name, and a friend told me to ask about it here. My daughter goes by a nickname that's a shorter version of her full first name, like Becky instead of Rebecca. Fake name, but you get the idea. I don't mind that she does that, but I'm getting tired of the way she corrects me when I introduce her. I use her full name because that's the name her dad and I gave her, and I don't consider the nickname her real name. But when I introduce her, she'll immediately correct me as if I called her a dirty word or something. Then she acts cold and distant towards me. It's embarrassing because whoever I'm trying to introduce her to sees her disrespecting me like this, putting a damper on the whole mood. It happens again today, and I'd finally had enough. I told her to drop the attitude and stop disrespecting me over nothing. She rolled her eyes and said, Jesus, which she knows I hate because I'm Catholic, then walked away from us and waited in the car. I was mortified and ended up crying in the bathroom. I love my daughter, but I'm at my wit's end here. I don't see anything wrong with introducing her by her real name, and I think she's being oversensitive and rude. But my friend says I should see what other people think. So here I am. You are the idiot. Can't you just say, this is my daughter Rebecca, but she likes to go by Becky, to solve both of these issues? Or let her introduce herself. OP, you want respect from your daughter, while actively disrespecting her on a regular basis. I'm 36 and go by my middle name. I absolutely despise my first name. I use my middle name all through high school, and I use it in my profession. It is my identity. My parents refuse to use my middle name, and even at my age, I find it the most obnoxious and self-centered take that I gave you your name, I'll call you what I want. I imagine your daughter feels similarly. If this is the hill you decide to die on, please be prepared for her to resent you for it. Is there any chance the nickname she uses also happens to be more like a boy's name, like Joe instead of Josephine? Are you deliberately misgendering your child and refusing to accept them? You are the idiot either way, but I feel you may be leaving out a pretty relevant piece of the story. I, 26 female, am getting married in 2023 to my fiancé, John, 29 male. We've been together for 4 years. Before I met him, and for the first year and a half of our relationship, I lived with Tammy, 27 female. Tammy and I have been best friends since we met at 12. Tammy and John have a great relationship too. The issue is with some of the people in my friend group who I met after John and I got serious. For some reason, they're all obsessed with me, and they were roommates jokes when it comes to Tammy and me. At first it was kind of funny, but now it's crossed the line and they won't stop. If I casually mention Tammy's coming along to an outing, at least 2 people will make some dirty joke about the 2 of us. She hit really hard times during COVID, and John and I let her stay in the guest bedroom. Cue the jokes about having a maid, wink wink, nudge nudge. It makes all 3 of us uncomfortable, and I've tried to get them to stop. But because they're my, soon-to-be, sister-in-law's friends, and I'm close with sister-in-law who doesn't make these jokes, it's been hard to cut them out or distance because of the tangled web of connections. I should note that I've been very clear that I dislike these jokes and that they're being disrespectful to myself, Tammy, and John. Well, last week we all went out, and Tammy came along. I was in no mood for these types of jokes and made a note on my phone of everyone who made a joke and how many times they said it. At the end of the night, we all returned to my place, and I stood up, pointed at the jokesters and said, "You're uninvited." Out of the 8 people who went out with us, 4 were uninvited. I clarified why and explained it again, so there was no confusion. The 4 who were uninvited left the apartment. My fiancé is on my side, but my sister-in-law is now fuming. She's super angry that I've isolated her from her friends because she's obligated to pick family. I said she could still be friends with them if they stop the jokes. Naturally, the people who I uninvited are angry too, and there's been a barrage of passive-aggressive Instagram posts about it, and the money they've spent being wasted. Am I the idiot for uninviting them? Not the idiot. The people were uninvited for continuing to make inappropriate comments after being told multiple times that you didn't like their jokes. They're not your friends if they don't respect you enough to retire an old and honestly not funny joke. So why would you have to invite them anywhere? Plus, you know that they would have made the same jokes at your wedding. You told your sister-in-law that she can still be friends with them if they stop the jokes. She can be friends with whoever she wants to be, whether they make the jokes or not. You don't dictate who she can be friends with, regardless of their classless behavior. With that said, screw them. You made it clear for them to stop the childish BS and knock it off. They don't respect you or your friendship enough. Your sister-in-law can be angry at you, but she can't make you re-invite the jokesters. So she can go pound sand too. Good luck and have a lovely wedding. My male 27 girlfriend 23 is absolutely beautiful, and most of her friends are physically attractive women as well, and they like to party with rich men they meet. My girlfriend and I have been together for a couple of years. I make a decent living, but I'm not NBA rich. I don't have a trust fund. I'm not a tech millionaire. I just make an excellent salary and bonuses, enough to have paid off a good portion of my house and graduated without debt. I want to retire young enough to enjoy my life, so I invest and save most of my money. Not all, I'm still enjoying my life now. I'm taking us to an all-inclusive in Jamaica for New Year's, but she's jealous of her friends. They get lavish gifts and they go out for dinner all the time. She loves me, and we have plans for the future, but she keeps bringing up all the things her friends get from their male admirers. I finally snapped and said I couldn't afford to be a sugar daddy. She said her friends aren't like that. I pointed out that they don't make enough to support their lifestyles. I pointed out that one of them drives a $100,000 Lexus, and she works part-time at a restaurant as a hostess. She says I'm calling her friends escorts, which I would not do, and judging them. So I asked her to explain how her friends afford dinner at expensive restaurants while earning minimum wage in some cases. She now thinks I'm an idiot for making what I feel are apt observations. She asked if I consider her that way because I pay for everything and earn 6 times for what she does. I told her no. I'm proud to have a teacher for a girlfriend, but she's still sulking. Not the idiot. You have 2 choices. Sit down with her and have an adult conversation that although she may be jealous of the gifts that her friends get, you do not and cannot get her all those same things. If you're paying for most of the luxury and bills, you get a big say on what luxuries are enjoyed. Or you can end the relationship. She sounds a bit immature. Or you could end the relationship. This is really the only option. He already did option 1. If it didn't go through to her the first time, it never will. Anyway, this relationship is doomed. He either breaks things off now, or she leaves him once he has no more money for someone richer. She's young and foolish. She's equating material things with someone caring about her. I have no sympathy for her friends. Their looks will fade, and if they don't have an education or a career, their $100K Lexus as sugar daddy present days will be a thing of the past. Your girlfriend needs to grow up. There's nothing to be jealous of. She must shuck her little buns and work for them if she wants expensive things.